So welcome to the Formula One Tavern. Let's talk Formula One. So the FIA has just rubber stamped new changes to help teams with the new price capping. From now on, drivers are to be self-employed and as such are allowed to drive for as many teams as they want. To help facilitate this, the F2 drivers will be able to double up to the F1 teams. Now, there's been a slight fly in the ointment though, as the all-powerful Ferrari team have said they will only allow their drivers to ride for two teams, which goes against the FIA's wishes and their rules. The FIA have issued a statement that they can do nothing because the Ferrari Federation is too powerful for the FIA, too powerful for them to enforce its own rules. Now, by now, everyone thinks that I have finally lost my mind. But this is exactly the position that Speedway finds itself in. Just ask Niels Iverson. Only in Speedway.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Everybody's looking at me all sort of puzzled for a second then.
No.
For a second.
You're normally crazy.
But it's true, isn't it? If the FIA, if Formula One tried to run Formula One in the way that Speedway's run, everybody would just think they've gone mad.
Oh, they certainly would, yeah. But unfortunately, it seems to be the way in Speedo that you can do that and nobody bats an eyelid.
This thing with that's better. This thing with Niels Iverson riding for King's Lynn and then having an agreement with his Polish team to be able to do that, and then they're saying no, you can't anymore because it's only two teams you're allowed to ride for. It's just
yeah. Well, I mean, we've heard stuff about the demands of Polish teams before, so it shouldn't come as a massive surprise, to be fair. So
I guess a lot of this comes from the fact that riders can ride for who they want to.
Well, that's it. We've let it get out of control, haven't we? Unfortunately,
it has gone out of control.
We did touch on this last week as well, didn't we?
Yeah.
We did. So, okay, if you guys out there, I think there's at least three of you, would like to join in, Chris will tell you how you can do that.
Okay, so on Facebook, just search for the Speedway Tavern. You'll find us on all good Facebook pages and groups. Or you can listen to us now on YouTube as well. We go live on YouTube every Tuesday. If you missed tonight's show, you can always catch up on our podcast, which is on Apple, Google, Spotify, and a lot of all other major podcast platforms. Thank you.
Good man.
You've got a telephone number as well.
Yeah, if anybody wants to call, you can WhatsApp us on 0777 911 7082.
And he's going to put that number up for you.
I will do.
On one of our shout boxes.
I'm getting to it all.
Okay, he looks busy. He looks hot.
So behind.
I don't mean that in a nice way either.
I was worrying then. So.
Yeah. So have we got any takers? Anybody on?
We have
at the moment.
I'll put it on the screen in a second. Simon's on. Andrew, Rich Thomas, Jeff Daniels, David James, John Bird, Pete Clark, and a load more others. We're a bit too shy to say anything.
Okay.
I'm sure they'll come out of the shell.
I'm sure they will. I've only got to say something stupid and they'll all be there.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long.
No.
Never takes long.
What it is, isn't it?
Well, I guess we might as well start with our respective teams. Good meeting for Wolverhampton against Belvoir.
Well, it was, yeah. I mean, surely we should be starting with the big news, of course, with Newcastle, the folding.
Okay, so I didn't. I didn't.
No, yes, that was announced this morning. I'm going to try and dig the statement out for you. I was actually wondering, have you heard this news? Obviously, you.
No, I haven't. No.
But we will.
Been a busy few days and weekend for me.
I don't think it's come as a particular surprise, in fairness, but we will dig the
statement
out, and I have got it here. Right, here we go. Newcastle Diamond season has come to an immediate end with 11 SGB Championship League matches outstanding as the sole owner of the Diamonds, Rob Grant, has made the unilateral decision late last night that enough is enough and that the club is now closed for business. Grant has said, "I've had no option but to close the Diamonds down for now. I have to point out that this is my decision only, as my fellow promoters and anyone else who has a keen interest in keeping Newcastle Speedway going wanted to help things run until the end of this season, but there is really no other option, and in the long term it is for the good of Newcastle Speedway." The situation has taken a massive toll on the finances of the club, a massive hit on my own mental health, and also a substantial toll on my other businesses, and I cannot allow that to take me down. Crowds have naturally dwindled to an unworkable level, and with results like our matches at home against Redcar and Leicester, we are trying to encourage folk back into the stadium, and that was never going to work with these results. But again, that's all down to me making poor decisions. The team needed changes, yes, but the fact was clear. As many other promoters will tell you, there are simply no top guys available to come in at the moment, and that crippled our efforts to bring in top-end new blood, despite massive efforts to do so. The situation was critical, and it had to be shut down now before it became too late for prospective new people to take a look at the club and buying it in 2023. Had we continued like we were, I would have ended up running Newcastle Speedway so deep into the ground that it would have been impossible to bring it back to life or clear its financial commitments successfully, all in which in due course. But now at least there is an option for someone to get in touch and see if new blood can fully take over the club for the future. It is quite a long statement, but that's really the gist of it. It's not come as a surprise, I don't think.
Not come as a surprise. My immediate reaction is I feel sorry for the Newcastle supporters, but I will say this, and do you know what? This goes for Birmingham supporters as well. Do you deserve to have a Speedway club if you don't get out there and support it? Now, that might seem harsh.
Well, there is the argument as well, of course, that was there a team they were supporting because they've sailed close to the wind before Newcastle, haven't they? Last season it was pretty much foregone conclusion that they weren't going to come to the tapes in 2022. Rob Grant obviously had a change of heart when they had a big crowd. I think they had a big crowd for the Birmingham meeting. That was supposed to be their last meeting. But I think they really needed to take the bull by the horns and try and get as strong a team as possible because it was a second chance that they didn't think they were going to get. But I mean, right at the start of the season, you looked at the Newcastle team and you just thought that team's not going to be able to compete, and it hasn't competed. If you're racing home matches and you're struggling to get past 25 points, then you're in big trouble. And the reality is, with the cost of living going up, it's people just don't have the spare cash now. So people's habits have changed. Unfortunately, they don't support Newcastle; they support them winning Newcastle, and unfortunately, they weren't doing it,
or at least a competitive Newcastle.
That's right. And it wasn't good. It wasn't good. It wasn't good for Newcastle. It wasn't good for the city. A Newcastle city that's got a fantastic sporting pedigree. And the other thing that people have overlooked as well, really, is the fact that all these teams that have raced Newcastle and rattled 60 points past them, those promoters have then had to pay those riders, big points money for those big scores, and now that's completely pointless because those results have been expunged from the league. So,
but the money won't be.
Absolutely no. So, and a frightening stat that I saw on Twitter early on: 26 clubs in 2003 in the top two leagues. Now, with Newcastle going, there's only 16.
Jeez.
That's 10 clubs in 20 years.
Yeah,
that's essentially one club every 2 years.
Well, I mean, we've been down this road before, haven't we, on this show, and it is frightening. I don't know. I mean, other than you need somebody to come in and run the sport properly, a Supremo, which we've said, other people have said, ad infinitum. That's the way it needs to be done.
And with those statistics, 10 years from now, scary.
There's a tweet from Retro Speedway from Tony McDonald. Until promoters start to a route and branch reform addressing why tracks are unsustainable, clubs will be continuing to be lost year after year. The warning signs were written for many of years and have been repeatedly ignored. Fundamentally, Speedway is far too expensive to run, participate in and watch. BSPL will never cede power to an independent Supremo body. They've missed their chance with John Berry in 1985. It may take a breakaway movement, a bit like the national provincial split in 1964, to bring everything to a head and for common sense to prevail.
There's a lot of common sense in that. Well, we've got a few comments up on the shout box, as you can imagine. David James says, shame about Newcastle, but it's going to be like that till Poland stop trying to run Speedway, telling riders where they can and they can't run. Well, possibly it needs the FIM to step in and sort of do what I was alluding to in my little piece before, to to enforce their own rules. John Bird says, "Evening, guys. Guess this is going to be a good show with everything gone on in a mad week." Jim Torrell says, "Evening via YouTube." Let's give him a wave. Hi, mate. Craig Smee, "Newcastle shouldn't have been allowed to run this season. A points average is put in place." Now I can't see anymore. Thank you. A points average is put in place to make the league competitive and to stop clubs running away with it. The fact Newcastle tracked a team well below the averages it should have set alarm bells ringing. They simply couldn't afford to track a competitive team. Suicidal for a promoter. So as aside from die-hard fans, the paying public won't come to watch a team getting hammered by 20 points every week on a poor racing track. Simple as that, really. Alan Peter Welch, "Sad day in Newcastle. I am gutted. Speedway is going to disappear in the next 10 years. Simon Corbett says, "Nice to meet Matt at Brum. Very good match on a good track. Crowd very poor on a beautiful evening. Pickering outstanding. Sedgman a worry when he doesn't gate. A nightmare with roadworks the last 5 minutes." There's a lot to pick apart in that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so, well, first thing we should pick apart. You said it's nice to meet you. Is that the first time that's ever happened? That's
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not normally they turn around and run.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's me, that is.
What is Matt's opinion of the Wolves track last night? Many reports say poor racing, one overtake all night. Bellevue clearly missed Kurtz, otherwise could have been closer.
Yeah, the track wasn't very good last night at Wolves, I must admit. Unfortunately, there's been too many instances at Wolves this season where the track's been different from one week to the other, which I don't think helps. There was one exceptional race, heat number 8, with Tom Brendan and Steve Worrell. Lovely pass from Steve Worrell to pass Tom Brendan on the outside, but apart from that, it was a bit processional. But really, the meeting was really kept interesting by the fact that it was so close until the latter stages when Wolves really began to pull away. But I do agree with Jeff. It certainly wasn't the best racing at Wolves last night.
Okay, well, Michael, what do you think James Wright for Birmingham on a 5.6 average? Well, there's going to be a free-for-all for Newcastle riders now, isn't there?
I think Lee Complin has gone to Edinburgh, as far as I'm aware.
To replace?
Not sure who's replacing, but I'm sure I have seen that somewhere.
It's going to be a merry-go-round, isn't there?
Yeah.
I think the so-called fans on forums, etc., slagging Rob off has not helped. I've got nothing but respect for Rob for trying. I think I've got a slightly different opinion on that than I would have had like 10 years ago. I think now the fans forums are a thing themselves that are slowly fading away, because people are much more interested on Facebook,
Twitter,
on all all these different, and I know on the Birmingham site it's dwindling away quite a bit, isn't it?
Yeah, it has quite a bit.
And I think new people coming in are much more likely to get their information that way than
people want direct information straight away, quick as that. Yeah, and I think Twitter and all the other social media outlets are the way.
Rich Thomas says, sadly, it won't be the last club to go. Dave Twine says, shared evening. I'm not sure.
Dave. Yes, don't forget to share the stream, please. Thank you, guys.
Oh, right. Okay, yes. Shared evening. And there's the slash that... David James, they have Cradley, Birmingham, Coventry, Wolves in the area. Why can't they help each other by going every week? Don't have Coventry, do we? But yes,
I think that does still happen.
That does happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
you still see quite a few Coventry fans that picture at Monmouth and also Perry Bar as well. So.
And also Birmingham have done a thing this month, which is they say the people from Wolves, from Coventry, from Cradley. They show their tickets or whatever, and they get in for a lesser price just for the month of June, just to try and encourage them.
I thought the crowd was up a bit at Perry Bar last week.
I thought it was up a little bit.
Yeah,
I did. Still not a great crowd, but
I think I would say it was arguably the best crowd of the season in Birmingham. To be fair, those who were there witnessed a very good meeting. So.
It was a great meeting. It was a great meeting. It's best I've seen at Perry Bar for a while, and the result was in doubt until the last heat, which is always nice to get. I know you've got opinions about the last heat, but we'll come on to that.
Yeah.
Paul Stark. He is a Newcastle, right?
He is, yeah.
So he's ridden for us before. I just said that because somebody mentioned it. John Bird, weather played big part in Monmore track racing last night. Track wasn't itself, but still a good meeting.
Yeah, as I say, it was good in the sense that it was close. I don't think the racing was brilliant, but there you go.
Phil Poltney says, I think Speedway just doesn't get enough press and TV is limited. The powers that be need to sit down and do a reset. Look at darts now. It's massive, week in, week out. I don't have the answers, but needs a big kick up the backside. I think comparing it to darts is a little bit... It's cakes and cheese, if you like.
Yeah.
Because... How often is a big dart? I mean, we've all seen those big darts match and they're packed out and everything.
Absolutely, yeah.
But that doesn't happen every week in lots of different places in the country.
Yeah.
It's an occasion, so it's a different dynamic, I guess. Rich Thomas, when I started watching in late 70s, there were 43 clubs in the top 2 leagues. I remember it well.
We've now got 16. It's alarming, that is, isn't it?
Look at the Discovery taking over the GPs. Already big changes and a vision for the GPs. It needs something like this for British Speedway, stripped back and start again with a structure from top to bottom. Yes?
Can't disagree with that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Pete Clark, Wolves was poor last night.
Yeah.
And Lee Complin's gone to Armadale, not Edinburgh, apparently. David James, I've seen world champions at Paul Speedway, Javi, Rickardson, Larum, Chris Holder, Magic Lars, Gunnarston, Skull, etc. used to be brilliant. Yes. And none of that calibre of rider is really riding in this country.
Unfortunately not, no.
At the moment. Although I forgot his name now, the guy that guested for us last week.
Josh Pickering.
Josh Pickering, that's the word. He was brilliant.
Brilliant in the pits as well, from what I've been told.
He seemed to very much become part of the team.
Yeah.
Don't get worried, Edinburgh.
When you say brilliant in the pits, what do you mean, like for
helping out, advice?
Okay.
Hope Matty Weathers gets a place fast. He's such a team racer. I really like him.
Yeah, he's a good rider, Matt Weathers is.
And Rich Thomas says coverage of top league Speedway on telly is so hit and miss. No one knows when a match is being shown.
It's very true. You know, there's I know we've got Eurosport, but of course they're not covering it. They're not covering a meeting every single week, are they? So there's not really any continuity. We're getting the coverage.
No, it isn't. But
it's one of the most common sentences. He's not in the Speedway forums. Is there any Speedway on tonight? Anybody know where it is?
Okay, right. So we've caught up, I believe.
Yeah.
Well done. Well, let's talk about Birmingham then. It was a great match. I mean, I hate this having to rely on guests all the time, but it is unfortunately the way of the world. I understand Klaus Wissing will be back tomorrow, so just one guest tomorrow for Josh, and a pretty good guest at that. Desperately trying to remember who it was. It'll come to me. Paco Castagna. Paco.
Well, he knows the track at least.
He certainly knows the track, yeah. We've got a few more things here. Listen to the last heats of Peterborough versus Ipswich on Radio Cambridge last night. Commentator saying dirty Doyle, etc., but saying he ran Basso into the fence on purpose should not be said by a commentator. And there you go. That is bad for the sport.
No,
he should not be biased.
Don't like that.
But if you watch a football match and somebody watch a football match and somebody fouls somebody, you expect the commentator to call that out.
Yeah, but not saying someone's done something on purpose. Saying someone's tried to injure somebody on purpose.
That does happen.
It has happened before, yes, admittedly, but I don't think you should really.
It's a judgment. Simon Corbett says it weakens Brum. I think he means
having Paco in as a.
I don't think Paco will weaken us. I think Paco and Josh
about the same, in there.
I think he's probably thinking about.
So just to
Crosby's
rewind,
him.
a bit there. What you're saying that the commentator actually said that.
That's what the commentators said.
Right, okay.
Oh, that's what's been reported to us.
So it's just clicked. Hey,
Yeah.
you can't say that.
I mean,
I
yeah,
suppose
you have to moderate the way you say things, but you should still call things out as you see them. If you think somebody's pushed somebody too wide, you should say that. But you do have to make sure your language is
curtailed a bit.
Yeah, just a bit. Yeah.
Somebody here said Doyle dirty. Never.
He's a hard rider, Jason Doyle. To be fair, so
but it's never struck me as being dirty. It is rumoured that the polls are to relax the rider league rule next season. Hopefully this will kickstart the British League. But can the clubs afford the big guys? I guess we'll find out.
I think it needs fairness more than anything else. I think it just needs a level playing field so every team can reasonably be able to compete.
Yeah.
Because I mean, as I said before, I mean, you looked at that Newcastle team back in March. Nobody could see anything other than Newcastle struggling. And that's been proved right. They've barely scored 30 points in some meetings. This is at home as well.
Of course, it's a problem for Birmingham. We're probably going to finish last now.
I can't see anything wrong with that comment, actually. It is time for British Speedway
To be run as business with a proper board, not the current regime.
Why isn't it?
It's history, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's the history of the sport.
Okay.
Anyway, back to Birmingham.
Right.
I've got to keep coming back to Birmingham because it was such a great match and it was so uplifting to see and to see the crowd's reaction and talk about Josh Pickering. Wow,
Really good performance.
Really good. Really, you would have thought he was our number one. He was really good. Nothing but and the way he spoke as well.
Yeah.
Really professional and really good.
Yeah, you got the sense as well that he enjoyed it. And he's obviously enjoying battling with top guys like Hans Hansen and Scott Nichols. So
and beating them.
yeah, beating them.
I
know Scott had his obviously had that problem in 8:13, but I think the pace that Pickering was going, I think he would have.
I think he was going to catch him. Yeah. So. And that would have sealed the win for us. You wasn't happy with.
Well, first and foremost, I'll say Birmingham did deserve the win. I mean, they made a really good start. They let Plymouth back into the meeting, really, but I thought Birmingham just had enough to hold Plymouth at arm's length, and that's essentially what happened. I was on the first bend up in the bar, so I obviously saw the.
I thought you might be in the bar.
Of course, yeah. I only had one in there. So.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
That's all he could afford.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. But I mean, I was on the first bend, and the incident with Stefan Nielsen and Hans Hansen happened on bend 3. It was a hard move from Hans Hansen. Don't get me wrong, but I saw minimal contact. And
is that not enough?
Sometimes it's enough, but I mean,
from where I was standing, I couldn't see.
Yeah.
I hold my hand up. When it happened, I would not have been surprised to see either of them. I just couldn't see. Something could obviously happen.
Yeah,
but I couldn't see.
not being disrespectful to Stefan Nielsen, as I like Stefan Nielsen as a rider, but I felt he could have stopped on that bike. I thought he sort of laid it down. It was a bit too quick to lay the bike down. I thought maybe took a chance, and Birmingham, to be fair, after such a horrendous run of luck with the injuries and
it's
weather,
nice to get some luck.
I think they did deserve some luck in that sense. But I was a bit surprised. I mean, by all accounts, neither Gary May nor Hans Hansen contested the decision with the referee, which did surprise me, to be honest. It was a trainee referee, wasn't it? So
it was a trainee referee. He had some decisions to make that night, didn't he?
I partly wondered at the time whether that decision was made based on Hans Hansen's reputation, but hey-ho.
I think it might have been based on something else actually, but I'll tell you about that off air. Jeff Daniels, can you go up a little bit? There was something I saw on, I think. No, I must have seen something else. Okay. Jeff Daniels, I listened to the Peterborough meeting last night. Commentator Defo said Dirty Doyle, and that's going to be his nickname. Very poor comment.
Don't like that.
Terry all talking about Josh Pickering. Seen Josh ride at Foxhall for Lynn, and I hate to say it as a witch, but I really enjoy watching his never say die attitude. Peter Clark, hi Pete. Big shout out to John Priest for the Brum track last week. 8 bowsers of water all day watering.
Okay.
Yeah, they did a great job with the track, didn't they? For such a hot day as well.
David Twine says Vissing was riding as a guest for another Danish team last week instead of riding for Brum. His team Halstead had no fixture. Okay. John Bird says I think it proves Birmingham need a number 1.
Oh, I have no doubts about that. If Birmingham had a number 1, that'd be a good side.
Yeah.
They're just lacking that rider
That
rider that you know can go out and win neat number 1 against anybody, and they don't really have that at the moment, unfortunately.
No, we need our Jason Lyons, essentially. If the Poles do relax the league rules, then I feel Poland, Sweden, Denmark and UK leagues should put their heads together to come up with a plan to allow not just the top riders but the young under-21s to be put into the top flight leagues. Surely a win-win for leagues to blood young talent for their own country. From a UK point of view, they should then allow the Premiership to field stronger teams and the Championship to be similar to how it is now. Still a good product, but won't have the top riders from around the world. More teams needed in top flight of UK as well.
I think that's a great idea, myself. Why aren't they bloodied?
Why aren't these people out here running Speedway?
Yeah.
Because they've got too much common sense, probably.
Yeah, and not, more common sense and not enough money.
Yeah.
There's
There's been some good comments tonight. Yeah.
You're making that sound. You sound surprised
Because
by that. That our audience make good comments. Wow.
Yeah, it is unusual, really.
John Bird, is
the
Vissing
rubbish
not
made him come out
riding
with.
in Danish final tomorrow then? I presume not. He's named in the Birmingham team.
Yeah.
And Dave Twine says about time Brum had some ref decisions to go for them.
Yeah, as I say, they did deserve some luck, to be fair. And as I say, I think over the course of the meeting, I think Birmingham did enough to win that meeting. I mean, at one stage it looked like Birmingham were going to run away with it, and they sort of let Plymouth back into the match. I mean, and don't forget as well, Plymouth have been excellent on the road this season, so that was a very, very good result to beat the Plymouth team that's been doing well on their travels this season.
They would have targeted that as a win.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. They would
and I think they probably deserved their point.
Yeah, I think they'll come away disappointed not with the performance in the first half of the meeting, because they in the end they left themselves a bit too much to do.
They're a good solid team.
And
but
can I just go to his comments on YouTube?
Yes,
from
okay.
Robert Hacker. First went to Speedway in 1960 at Sun Street. 10 years old, nights out, great promoters. These promoters can't lace Fearman's and Parker's boots. Still watch Speedway, but it agonises me watching guest rider replacement. I think that's what it says.
Okay. I was going to say something then, and it's totally...
Thanks for tuning in anyway, Robert.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for everybody for tuning in.
Appreciate it,
and all your comments. We can't run without them. Okay, so it's a shame because I had something really important to say and it's disappeared.
Never mind.
Couldn't have been that important.
No. Okay. So this weekend we have the GP.
Yep.
It seems to have been a long time since we had the last one.
Well, 2 weeks. So.
Lots happened in 2 weeks in Speedway. It's like politics.
Yep. And goes off, of course.
Yeah, you would imagine. I can't even say his name. Bartek Smarslik
on his home track.
On his home track, yeah.
So.
You would possibly expect him to. Has he sort of got to do well in this one to make people keep that sort of air of unbeatability about him?
I don't think so, because he is still leading the championship, to be fair. So I mean, people
quite a lot, really.
People are making out that he's not having a very good season. He's still, comfortably clear at the top of the standings. I mean, he hasn't won the number of GPs that you would have expected him to, because people at the start of the season were talking about whether he could win every single Grand Prix, but He's
because of the Russians not being there.
Yeah, absolutely. But he's doing enough. He's doing the bare minimum at the moment. There's going to be different challenges all the way through the season, aren't there? So, and just hoping for a good GP, because the last couple of GPs haven't been particularly great, to be honest. I mean, Prague was disappointing, and from what I've seen of
they had their moments, but it wasn't a thriller minute. It wasn't a best advertisement.
Yeah, but from experience of watching Speedway at Gorzov, I do like the Gorzov track. So it's hopefully a meeting that we're going to see some pretty good racing on. So
absolutely, a bit like the Birmingham track.
Yeah,
it's just nice to say that after what happened last year. Well done, Mr. Priest. And everybody that there's be a lot of people down there now putting the covers on and the tyres, getting ready for tomorrow. So well done, all you guys. We should say well done to Adam Ellis. Qualified for the European Championship.
Absolutely, yeah.
The shortened mini championship as it is now. I can see him doing okay in that.
Yeah, he's not. I would say he's had a solid start of the season, hasn't he? Doing well for Sheffield. He probably hadn't hit top form for Birmingham before he dropped out of the plans, but certainly for Sheffield, he's having a pretty good season. So.
Just to say, I received that via email, Mike. I don't know if it's of interest about. It's from Rob Dyer. So.
Yeah, it might be of interest to some of the Cradley fans. Speedway's back with White Link Warriors on a mission. The 2022 Speedway season at Ryde Smallbrook Stadium launches this coming Thursday on the 23rd of June as the White Link Warriors prepare to take on the Cradley Heathens and Weymouth Wildcats in the first of 3 meetings as the teams race for the newly created Michael Richardson Trophy. Warriors will warmly welcome back Ben Morley and Connor King as those two former Warriors link up with 2021 homesters Dan Noverge and Alex Spooner, with team manager Steve Piper on a mission to drive his charges on to improve blah. You get the idea. Yeah. I'm just seeing if I can find out some of the teams. Okay, here we go. For the Warriors, it's Connor King, Ben Morley, Alex Spooner and Dan O'Verge. For the Heathens, it will be Alfie Botel, Connor Coles, Tom Spencer and Chris Watts. For the Wildcats, it will be Henry Atkins, Jacob Clouting, Jason Edwards and Ben Trigger. That could be quite an interesting meeting. I'm not sure I could.
Yeah, wish them well. They've done really well down there, haven't they? The All White, and they have shown how to promote Speedway.
Absolutely,
it's just criminal that they've essentially been forced away from British Speedway. Yeah, thanks, Rob.
Can we talk about Kings Lynn Reserve? They signed Jason Edwards to replace Jack Thomas on short-term deal, but the authority of Rising Star is injured. The club's number 8 has to ride, so the rules being bent already by the clubs.
Yes, I thought that.
I didn't know that was a rule, but it is a rule. Then,
because when Leon Flint was injured, Wolves used Joe Thompson in the meetings because he's designated as Wolves' number 8. So.
Pete Clark's just said we could do with a few more taking the tyres and sheets off tomorrow night. If you could spare an hour after the meeting, please come and see us in the pits. Yeah, we could. I was knackered. Am I allowed to say that at the end of last week?
No. Go on, there you go.
But when you get to our age,
Yeah, talk quite. Can you put that down a little bit? There was something I wanted to. No, keep going. Go. That's the one. Craig Smith says he fancies Marslick at the weekend, but Dan Bewley looked quick around Gorjo on Sunday and had some good speed. Had a great race with Smarslik as well, so keep an eye on Bewley. He's riding well in Poland this season.
Dan Bewley's started life in the GP pretty well, I think, isn't he?
I think so.
He's certainly on the pace. He doesn't look overawed by it.
Not at all. I think it probably helps having Ty Waffenden
and Robert Lambert as well, obviously in there. And Robert Lambert's had a pretty solid start to the season as well.
Yeah, not bad.
He's currently in the top 8 at the moment. So,
and looks like Ty Waffenden's finding form at last. So
he's been better in the last couple of Grand Prix, although he's still seems to be struggling at the gates for me.
Craig says he's never been the best gaiter in the world, though, has he?
He never has been, but he's gating at the moment. For me, Peter Carlson's gating was terrible. I know that from watching him when he first came over here, but Tysie's no better, I don't think, at the moment. So
Craig Smee says Waffy's really struggling for speed. He starts off slow, has a couple of race wins, and then tails off towards the end in most meetings.
yeah,
I think that's a fair comment. I think he was a little bit better in his last GP, to be fair. Sorry, guys, only just come on. Anyone mentioned the new kid on the block, Luke Killeen? I think he was mentioned earlier.
Yes, he was, yeah.
I know very little about him, so...
Well, a lot of people are raving about him, I know that, so...
And anyone old enough to remember Frank Crazy Man Killeen? He's old man. I'm probably old enough to remember him. I'm obviously old enough to have forgotten him as well.
So. Yeah, you remember the war? So
where? Yeah, what, the 100 Years War?
I was on at the
Napoleonic.
Napoleon. Yeah. Yeah, can I just say there's a lot of people online tonight watching us. Don't be shy, just come on and introduce yourself, say hello, tell us your team. There you go.
Yep, tell us your team, tell us how you've been doing this week, tell us the most entertaining rider that you've had ride for you that's not in your team.
Yeah.
I'll
Should have
start
that as a war, shouldn't we, at the end of the season?
Yeah.
Best, most exciting guest of the season, so...
I'll start with Josh Pickering. I wonder how many people will say that.
Bomber's going to be up there.
We should say get well soon, Ben Barker.
Yep, good.
As well, because he's had a bit of an injury. Yeah.
Every week somebody gets injured, don't they? It's awful.
Only in Speedway.
Yeah.
Right, I guess we're coming up towards that time, aren't we,
I
lads?
don't know where 40 minutes have gone already.
I know.
Where
I just looked at the time.
How is that?
We look at the league table and have a laugh. So.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
It's your. Hang on, I should get that in studio mode. There we go. So
I'm still in 17th place.
You're still in 17th place.
Too many reds in there.
I've slipped a little bit, but look at it's getting
Yeah.
quite tightish, isn't it?
Yeah.
It isn't completely accurate, that table. I have missed off a point for
God,
Andrew
he gets
Garner.
one.
So
He gets
I will,
one. He gets
so
one job
I'll,
every week.
He actually is...
So he's in third place
yeah,
then.
so, but, I mean, Steve Morgan's the big mover, isn't he? I mean, I look... Because I keep a screenshot of all these league tables week by week, and I think 3 weeks ago, Steve was about 9th or 10th.
All right.
And he's absolutely flying the bus.
So he's the most improved?
Yeah.
So there's hope for me yet? No. Okay.
No.
I'm glad we got that done.
Yeah. But there's only 4 points separate the second to the.
I'm catching up with you, Chris.
102
Believe it or not,
points.
I'm catching up with you
I
slowly.
don't know how chance you've had it now. That 50 quid's mine.
Pardon? Wow. Okay.
We've got a few fixtures to come up this week, I think. So
Yeah,
we
yeah.
had quite we didn't have many last week, but we've that's going to amply be made up for.
I know what I was going to say. I remembered what I was going to say. I heard a comment that said, well, Birmingham's season is over. Somebody said it to me actually at the meeting last week. And no, it's not, because there's another cup to go for.
Yep.
There's the Summer Cup, and get the team back together and get it clicking. You know.
Until it's mathematically impossible, that sixth place has got to be there to be shot at.
Absolutely. Okay, so shall we get on with it?
There we go.
Seems to have been an eventful night at Peterborough last night. 4 exclusions in the first 7 races and a couple of crashes. Anyone there last night that could tell us, was it just a good competitive meeting, or was it the track catching riders out? My understanding is that it was just a good competitive meeting from what I've read.
From what I've read, it took a while for them to repair the air fence after
Right.
the first crash there. 'Cause there was a comment on the Speed Up Stress website saying they must be using a foot pump. It was taking that long.
Right then, I believe I started last week, didn't I?
Yeah.
So it's you start this week.
First up is Birmingham against Redcar. Interesting one.
The return
return.
of Redcar.
Do you want me to hold your cart for you when you arrived?
And the return. It's a different team, though, isn't it? Yeah. It's not, I mean, Eric Chris was riding for us last year.
I do think I think there's going to be some needle on the terraces, to be fair, because there was a lot of anger in that meeting, wasn't there, last year that we.
We'll see.
But I'm going to go for a Birmingham win on this one by 4. It's going to be tough because Redcar are having a good season again. So
yeah, but possibly not as good as Plymouth. So
I'll go?
Yeah, you'll go.
Okay, so I'm actually going to go for Brummie's win. I'm going to go Brummie's by 4.
Go. one win we get, and all of a sudden everybody we're going.
So don't get overconfident now. So
everybody else is going for red car so far. By the way, we've got red car by 10, by 6, by 8. So I'm going to go for a Birmingham win, and I'm going to also say by 4. So.
These comments will be on the red car dressing room wall apparently tomorrow. So
right.
Next up, we've got Oxford against Glasgow.
Oxford against Glasgow. They sort of flattered to deceive a bit, haven't they, Oxford?
They have a little bit, yeah.
Up to you, Chris.
I'm going to go Oxford by 6.
I'm going to say Glasgow by 4.
I'm going to take leave of my senses and say Oxford by 14.
Good God.
Sorry?
Good God. You have taken leave of your senses, everybody. We've got red car by 8, Glasgow by 8, Glasgow by 6.
You've got to start taking a few gambles here, I think. So
is that what you're doing then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not far off the top, so...
Yeah, okay. Okay, what's the next one? Pool Pirates versus Plymouth Gladiators.
I think that's up to me, isn't it?
No, you did the last one, it's up to me.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to go, by all means.
No.
I'm going to say Pool by 8. Yay.
Sorry.
Somebody told me off for that last week, yeah.
Did they?
Yeah, they really did.
What, for doing that?
Yeah.
Okay, I won't do that. I'll go.
This is not your go, just
No.
honestly.
I'll go Pool by 10.
Okay.
I'll go Pool by 12.
That could be a good competitive meeting, actually.
It could be.
Down there.
Could be.
Because Pool have got a lot of Plymouth have got a lot of ex-Pool riders as well, so...
Okay, so we're up to...
Ipswich against Peterborough.
That's yours. That could be interesting.
I'll go Ipswich by 4.
You wouldn't have said that a couple of weeks ago.
No.
You would have given Ipswich a much bigger...
I'll go Ipswich by 6.
I'm going to say Ipswich by 8, just because I was going to say 6 and I don't want to say the same as you.
No, so.
Okay, next up is Kings Lynn against Sheffield.
Kings Lynn Stars with their guest for Everson, I suppose.
I'll go, sorry. Kings Lynn by 6.
Sheffield by 2.
I'm going to go Kings Lynn by 4. Sheffield seem to have gone off the ball a bit, don't they? So
They do. But
next up is Edinburgh against Oxford.
and that's down to me. I'm going to say Edinburgh by 12.
I've gone Edinburgh by 10.
I'll go Edinburgh by 8.
Okay, next up.
Red Car Bears versus To Be Confirmed.
That was going to be Newcastle, of course, wasn't it?
Oh, right, okay.
So we move on to Glasgow against Leicester.
To be confirmed would have won that anyway. Was it my go?
No, it's Matt's go, and this is going to be an interesting one.
Glasgow by 6.
I'll go Glasgow by 4.
Just on the basis that I've got nothing to lose, Leicester by 2.
Okay. Now we drop into the National League. Bellevue Colts against Berwick Bullets.
It's up to you, Chris.
Bellevue Colts. I'll go Bellevue by 10.
Bellevue by 4.
Bellevue by 20.
Well, that's a very different... okay.
Next up, we've got back into the Championship, Berwick against Scunthorpe.
Interesting. And down to me. I'm going to say a draw.
I'm going to say Berwick by 14.
I'll go Berwick by 10.
Okay, next up is Leicester against Birmingham, Midland Derby.
I go.
It's Matt's go. Be kind to us.
I better stand outside for this one, I think, haven't I? So, I've gone for Leicester by 26. I've gone for.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Birmingham's recent visits to Leicester have been about that, haven't they? So
Yeah.
I'll go Leicester by 14.
I'm going to say Leicester by 12.
I think Birmingham just need to go out there and just make a match of it, don't they? I don't think anybody's realistically expecting Birmingham to go there and win, but
I might even go to that match. Who knows?
okay.
Okay. Mildenhall Fen Tigers versus Leicester Cubs. It's up to you, Chris.
I'll go Mildenhall by 10.
I'm going to say Mildenhall by 6.
I'll go in the middle then. Mildenhall by 8.
Of course you will. You can continue putting your scores up on the shout box as well if you want. People seem to have stopped.
Sheffield against Ipswich, which I believe is the TV meeting on.
That might not be a bad meeting.
Yeah.
Up to me, I'm going to say Sheffield need to get their act together, don't they?
Yeah.
I'm going to say Sheffield by 6.
I've gone Sheffield by 2.
Okay.
I'll go I'll go in the middle, 4.
Okay.
Next up, we've got Mildenhall by 12, Sheffield by 8, and Sheffield by 16.
Yeah, real mixture of opinions there, aren't there? So, next up on Monday is Wolves against Peterborough. That's the rearranged match from a couple of weeks ago, I believe.
Okay, it's up to you, Matt.
I'll go Wolves by 10.
I'll go Wolves by 6.
I'll go by Peterborough by 26. No.
No
Just get my own back for that.
No rule is you can't change.
No. I had my fingers crossed.
Oh, that's okay then.
I'm going to say Wolves by 10.
I was going to say, which one's your bad knee against? And last but by no means least, we've got Plymouth against Glasgow on Tuesday.
Plymouth versus Glasgow.
Who goes up?
That's yours, Chris.
Okay, I'll go Glasgow by 6.
I'm going to say Plymouth by 4.
I've gone that as well. I've gone Plymouth by 4.
Okay.
I think that's
Thus ends the meetings for the...
Yep, so put your scores up on the chat. I know obviously some of you have already put your scores up on the Facebook page as well. So
and don't forget, you can't change it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't change it. Once you put it up, that's your lot.
Yeah, and I will do an updated table when I get back home. It's a bit difficult to edit it on the phone. So.
Yeah.
Is there a meeting going on at Plymouth today, by the way?
It was going to be Newcastle. But,
okay. So there isn't a meeting then.
Yeah, that disappointed me, to be honest. It was on the Plymouth website before it was announced on the Newcastle website.
Okay.
Which seems a bit strange.
Only in Speedway.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's been a lot of talk about the situation with Newcastle. Don't want to dig too deep into it, because I think there's a lot of things that have gone on at Newcastle, not just over the last couple of years, but over more years than that, to be honest, that sort of led to Newcastle fading like this. From what people have said, I don't think Rob Grant has really helped himself in a lot of ways. From what some of the Newcastle fans have said, there's been comments about him, with the fact that he's wouldn't accept help from people, wouldn't be advised, and I don't know. I mean,
a real Speedway man then. But you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, as I said earlier, I think probably with the benefit of hindsight, it was probably a mistake to carry on this season. They obviously had that big crowd at that last meeting that I think you went to last year, and that sort of, maybe a heart-rolling head decision to carry on. But if you were, as I say, if they were going to carry on, they had to try and get a more competitive team, because last season the team was well below the points limit as well. As I say, it's just coming up to a year since we lost Eastbourne as well. So I think there's still a lot of things going on down at Eastbourne, trying to sort out the mess that was left at Eastbourne for them to hopefully come back to the tapes in 2023.
Somebody has said Newcastle and Edinburgh are gone at the end of the season. I hope that's not true. So Leicester and Glasgow up to the Premiership.
I can't see Glasgow going up.
It really depends on how it's organised.
Well, it's just too far out the way, isn't it? Because the nearest their local derby then will be Bellevue, wouldn't it? So it's
So what's the problems at Edinburgh then? I didn't
They've lost their track for next year.
Oh right, okay.
Basically, somebody on the official Speedway page said he was offered a lot of help and support and wouldn't take it. Don't know why. Well, possibly if we knew what that support was, we might know why. British Under-21 final at Birmingham now on Wednesday the 31st of August.
Yeah, that's going to be a good meeting for Birmingham to have, isn't it? And I think the fact that the track's been excellent this season as well will help with that one. So,
Pete Clark says happy bear hunting to me. Yeah.
Just going back to the under-21s, I would say it's got to be the average rider must be under-21 anyway. Speedway. Riders.
I doubt it. I doubt it, to be honest. I mean, you look at the likes of Bomber, Scott Nichols, Hans Anderson.
Yeah, you've got a few old ones, but I mean,
even Klaus Wissing.
Josh Orty's well over 30 now, isn't he? So.
Yeah. Chris Simpson says, "Evening Brummies, looking forward to seeing you soon." Okie dokie. Leicester and Glasgow give Premier credibility. Can't run with 6 again.
Well, I think at the moment the Premiership is sort of counting on Swindon coming back, but I've up until about 6 weeks ago I was very, very confident that we'd see Swindon back, but I've got reservations again because it's gone very, very quiet there. From what I've been told, they've stopped working as well on doing the work down there. And Alan Rust has been extremely quiet on the whole thing, to be honest. I did actually wonder when Oxford came back whether Roscoe might end up there, because obviously he did race for Oxford and it's relatively local to him. So, yeah.
Paul Kavanagh says, I was at Peterborough, I was talking to Jason Crump. He said there seemed to be a rut on the 3rd and 4th bend, which he hadn't ever seen before. Bomber was fantastic on the night.
Well, as I've said before, Bomber will ride anything, won't he, so...
Duncan Pemberton has echoed your views. Swindon will be a housing estate, unfortunately. And Rich Thomas says, Swindon very doubtful, nothing happening at the stadium. Promises made and not kept.
I suppose if it's about money, then...
It's always about money.
Well, then a housing estate has got to be more profitable.
I'm looking at this. Well, you look at the situation at Swindon. It does seem to be very, very reminiscent of the situation at Reading. You know, Reading closed in 2008, and it was, oh, don't worry, we'll get your new stadium sorted out, and
nothing.
You know, 14 years later, I mean, the annoying thing for Reading is
14 years.
Yeah,
wow.
2008, and the annoying thing is the site at Reading is still there. It's still not used. It's
right.
You know, I think you can still just about see the outline of the track. I mean, admittedly, it wasn't the plushest of venues. I don't know whether you ever went to Smallmead, but.
Craig Smith says, we need Swindon back, but could do with more teams. Really gone quiet on the rumoured clubs coming back as well. Bradford, Rye House.
Happened to Bradford.
Let's talk about Coventry as well. That's another one.
Yeah,
that's all gone very quiet there all of a sudden. We don't know what's happening.
We're still waiting for the court case to go through with Coventry.
And when you see what is happening lately with clubs, these clubs that are thinking of coming back, they must be thinking, do we really want to come back?
Lots of Birmingham Speedway talked about Swindon, according to Rich Thomas. Did you like the way I cleaned that up?
Yes. Yeah.
Did I hear that right? It's Perry Bar that can only be used for a sporting event.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
That's how I understand it.
There is a covenant on the stadium, yeah.
That was a clever idea, wasn't it?
Although I'm sure if somebody wants to, money, as we say, talks.
Yeah.
I don't want to finish on a it's been, the whole Newcastle thing and clubs closing. It's quite depressing, and I understand that. But I'd like to try and finish on a much higher note.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
I can't think of a way to do that. Letters on a postbox. Postcard, I should say. Bradford Odsal is far too big to host League Speedway. Would be great as a GP venue.
I've said that many times, Ben. I think for big meetings like GPs and British finals, it'd be fantastic. But league racing, it's just it's the stadium. The stadium itself, you could the crowds that they got for league matchings in the 90s were probably pretty good crowds in comparison to other ones, but they were just lost in such a vast bowl. I mean, it's enormous. So.
Craig Smee says, since the Coventry fire, it seems to have burst a bubble a bit. The court case really needs to be brought forward. You could bet your money they'll stage another fire before the November hearing. No more fires.
Well, let's hope not.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. It's been a great show tonight. You've really helped us out with that. Have a good week. See you all soon.
Good night.
Speedway Tavern, enjoy your stay. Welcome to the Speedway.